patches around their eyes and their blowhole, and that's because, yeah, they're younger animals. Keela was born here. She'll be turning 17 this year, and Aurora is her mother. She's the one on the far side going over with Julie. So, we're going to talk about some connections with these animals, and yes, I mentioned right at the beginning, these are Canada's most abundant whale, but where exactly are we hiding all of them in this big country of ours? Does anyone know? Shout out. Where do we find beluga whales? In the Arctic, you are correct. Did anyone say the St. Lawrence? Yes, you did. We'll just assume that you did. Yeah, you also find a small population of belugas in the St. Lawrence, and occasionally we ask, where do you find beluga whales? And people shout out, the aquarium. And yes, that's true. We do have them here. But yeah, we're going to talk about the Arctic population, the St. Lawrence population, and yes, the population. At the beginning, the Arctic population. By far the largest. That's where you find the bulk of these animals, the majority of them. It's a chilly place. It's a cold place. It's a place that you don't normally associate there being a lot in the way of wildlife. But yes, if you're looking for it every now and again, you can find a mystical white whale. And belugas in particular are known for, well, if you happen to be called a beluga, it's usually not a compliment. It has to do with the fact that these animals are a little on the jiggly stuff. And how is it that they're able to get so big in a place that's not known for having a lot of food? Well, they have some interesting feeding strategies as a whale. And most people are familiar with baleen whales. Of course, they filter sediment and stuff out and krill in the baleen. But belugas, they have flexible lips. And they use those flexible lips to actually do something that is somewhat surprising. They can actually spit. There's a cat on the backside, and if you're up here in front, watch out. This Keela is going to demonstrate with Indy exactly how far these animals can spit.
Oh.
That was kind of far. All right, we'll accept that. And while these animals typically don't spit into the air, because Indy is not edible for the animal, they'll swim into shallow water and into the ground. They stir it up. They find interesting things to eat, like snails, like clams, like worms, maybe things that you wouldn't picture whales eating. But for these guys living in the Arctic, if it's protein and they find it, by and large, yes, they eat it. And that's why they're able to, well, get as large as they are and stay warm with all that blubber. But are belugas the only animals that live in the Arctic? No. You know that, the belugas know that, we all know that. Not only are there whales, but there are also the two-legged mammalian variety. People. Inuit have lived in the Arctic for thousands of years and have been able to live there by also being somewhat creative with their diet. And most of us, we'd be getting scurvy in no time trying to live in the Arctic because we'd be looking for vitamins and nutrients and where exactly we're going to find them. But Inuit have been looking for and finding vitamins and nutrients in some interesting places. They've been living 100-mile diets for a lot longer than it's been fashionable down here. And if you'll notice in our habitat, there's about 800 kilograms worth of vitamins and nutrients. Now, granted, we don't look at these animals necessarily as a food source, but it's known that the blubber on these animals, on seals and walruses, yeah, does have some of the same vitamin content that you and I get from fruits and vegetables. And obviously the Arctic is a place it's difficult to grow anything. So yeah, if you're going to live up there, you got to be creative with your food. Now, what does that have to do with us? Well, I mean, we know about the 100-mile diet down here, even though we don't necessarily have to, because it's one of the several energy conservation initiatives that encourages us to think about where our food comes from, and in particular how much energy we use to get it to food. And that's where the belugas come in, because our energy usage is affected them, as far as we know. In the Arctic, the ice is not as much of it, and does that have anything to do with their food? Well, yeah. You'll notice our exhibit, the algae growing around the edges of the rocks. As that comes out, there'll be more and more and more. When the Arctic grows on the ice itself, there's invertebrates, the algae.
Really? Yeah.
And big fish, and then roly-polies up here.
Rolling
around.
they end
up eating
rolling.
those things. So yeah, the foundation of their food chain is being affected by the amount of ice. But moving to a population that doesn't have as much ice, a smaller population laterally, it is the St. Lawrence population. There's only 900 of those individuals, give or take. And they don't need to deal with the climate issues necessarily, but they do live downstream.